Hello, it's Alex and welcome to Hey Little Thrifter. Today I'm going to be talking about everything I read in April, and this isn't including the stuff I'm reading for Halloweenathon. I'll be doing a separate wrap-up video for that once the readathon is over. And that's actually taking place right now and it finishes on the 5th of May, so there's still time to join in if you would like to do so. I will leave a link to mine and the other co-hosts' videos below. I am co-hosting that with Spinebreakers, That's What She Read, and Carol Marie Reads. So what did I read in April? First up, I kicked off the month with April Fools by Richie Tankersley Cusick. This is one of the point horror books that came out in the early 90s and obviously a very fitting selection for April. It's about a girl called Belinda. She and her two best friends are coming back from an April Fool's party and they're involved in a car accident. And Belinda is insistent on trying to help the people in the crash, but her friends force her into leaving the scene of the crime and basically pretending like it never happened. But Belinda continues to be really troubled by this, even though her friends kind of don't really care and just brush it off like it's no big deal. Alongside this, Belinda takes up a job as a tutor for a teenage boy around her own age. Turns out this boy was in a car accident recently. And yeah, the more the story unfolds, the more it appears that this guy and the accident were intertwined. And this one was really great. I really enjoyed it. Richie Tankersley Cusick is probably one of my favourite authors from the point horror series. I think she's a really good writer. The story was full of tension and suspense and a bit of romance, of course, and the portrayal of Belinda just being plagued with worry over what happened was, yeah, very well done and very believable. I could definitely put myself in her shoes, and the story definitely went somewhere that I wasn't expecting it to, so it was a lot of fun. And there was also a really great character, a British butler called Cobbs, who was just, yeah, very dry and sarcastic, and I enjoyed him quite a bit. So this one was great. I gave it 4 stars. Next I read Brother by Ania Ahlborn. This was my first Ania Ahlborn. I know everyone else has been raving about her for quite some time and I'm late to be jumping on that bandwagon. This is about a character called Michael. He and his family live out in the woods in the middle of nowhere and they are cannibals. And going into this book knowing that it was a horror novel about a family of cannibals, I couldn't help but think about Off Season by Jack Ketchum, which is an excellent action-packed and gore-filled story. So I thought Brother was maybe going to be something similar to that, but it was actually very, very different. Brother is much more character-focused. It goes into people's backstories a lot more, and it's definitely a lot more emotional than I thought it was going to be. There were definitely some heartbreaking moments to the story which I thought were really well done. She definitely makes you care about these characters and nothing is black and white either. And even though this was a bit more of a character-driven story, there definitely were some action moments and some really gruesome stuff too, so it had a bit of everything going on and I really liked the combination. This one was recommended ages ago by Julie at A Girl in a Book. I know she loved it and it's been on my to-read list ever since, and yeah, it's definitely taken me a while to finally pick it up, but I'm really glad I did. Definitely recommend this one too. I gave it 4 stars. Next I read The Nightmare Room by Chris Sorensen. This is about husband and wife, Peter and Hannah. Their young son has died and they decide to move across country to Peter's hometown and basically start afresh. But the house that they move into seems to have some kind of presence, and we have flashbacks to the past and something that happened back then, which is still haunting the place. A fairly classic setup and one that I was interested to read. I've seen a ton of great reviews for this, you know, lots of 4 and 5 stars, and people here on YouTube that have talked highly of it. So I was really looking forward to this and just totally expected that I would love it too, but I didn't, unfortunately. I actually ended up giving this 2 stars. It did start off pretty well. I was enjoying getting to know the characters, and yeah, even though the setup isn't particularly original, you know, I was still going with it and looking forward to seeing what interesting things it was going to do with that classic story. Unfortunately, the story just didn't hold my interest very much. The more I got into it, the less I cared. I didn't really care about the characters, they just grew quite annoying. There were certain elements to the story that, you know, would come up at some point and then were never mentioned again. It felt like maybe the author was trying to fit too many ideas into one thing, and it just didn't seem to work very well. The elements of the story that were clearly meant to be emotional unfortunately didn't have any impact on me because I just didn't really care about the characters, and the creepy stuff again fell really flat for me. There was just nothing new here, and I don't mean a story has to be completely new and unique to be good, but there just wasn't anything to hold my interest here. And yeah, the more and more I read through, the less I enjoyed it. So I couldn't recommend it, even though I know a lot of other people do, but this one just wasn't for me, and I gave it 2 stars. Then I read Lord of the Flies by William Golding. This is one that I've been meaning to read for years and never have until now. At the beginning of this year, I had a list of 5 modern classics that I would really like to get to this year, and we're already a third of the year through and I've only picked up 1 of those 5, but hey, at least it's a start. So Lord of the Flies is about a number of boys of various ages who are stranded on an island, and it follows them as they form friendships and rivalries, they try to survive, and yeah, how things can escalate in, you know, an isolated society. And yeah, this is a classic for a reason. It was an excellent read. I did find it a difficult read at times because of the language. I did struggle with the language at times, but the more I read, the more I got into it and the more I was able to enjoy it. It's a very famous story, so even though I'd never read it, I was already familiar with the basic gist, and even so, it still had a lot of surprises for me. It was still emotional and it was still shocking, and yeah, definitely glad I finally picked it up. I gave this one 4 stars. And last up, I read The Rust Maidens by Gwendolyn Kiste, and I did this as a buddy read with the lovely Emily at Page Turns. I will leave her channel linked below. The Rust Maidens is about a group of teenage girls who live in a neighbourhood in Cleveland. It's set in 1980, and some of these girls start to transform physically. Their bodies seem to be turning into metal and glass, and they're leaking water and becoming rusty, and no one knows why this is happening. And we're following Phoebe, who is one of the girls in this neighbourhood. This was another book this month that started off really promising but didn't sustain it, unfortunately. Initially, I was really drawn to this setting and the premise, and the story is told kind of in the present day and looking back to what happened in the past in 1980. I thought all of that worked pretty well, and I liked her writing. It also brings up some really interesting themes about being female, you know, being a girl, turning into a woman, and how things happen to our bodies that are out of our control, yet we're still blamed for our bodies in society. So it was talking about some really strong themes, and I was really interested to see where they went. But as the story went on, it felt like some of these ideas got left by the wayside, and about halfway through the book I felt it was getting a bit repetitive and it had kind of just lost its spark for me. By the end, I just felt a bit unsatisfied. I felt like I wanted a bit more from it, and the kind of the grand start had kind of faded out by the end, which was a shame. I did enjoy a lot of the things in there. I enjoyed her writing and some of the ideas in there, so I would still be interested to read more by her, but this one just ended up being a bit of a mixed experience, and I gave it 3 stars. So that was everything I read in April. Let me know if you've read any of these and tell me what you thought, or let me know if you've read anything good recently. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you again in my next video. Bye!